Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Porter Says podcast. I'm your host, and of course, only host, Heath. So this is the third episode, as you can tell, and I got not a new microphone, but I figured I'd use more of a fancier one to try and seem as I'm a little bit more professional and fancier than I am. And of course, Mr. Portaloo is making an appearance once again. Sorry for his lack of being in the last one, as I was upstairs in my bedroom. But now I am down here because, frankly, this is probably a much better setup and a bit more comfortable. So on today's agendas, of course, as you can tell from the poster behind me, we are going to be talking about The Little Vampire, starring Jonathan Lipnicki, Richard E. Grant, and Anna Popplewell. So this is the mystery movie I've been talking about. I guarantee you most of you haven't even heard of it. Although more of you should, because it's a classic. But we'll get to that in time. Because I also want to talk about a couple of other movies I've been watching over the past couple of days. So watching and rewatching. So I'm looking on my iPad again at my notes just because I'm so professional. So one of the movies that I watched for the first time, I think I've seen 3 movies I've watched for the first time and a couple of I've rewatched. So the first one is Life from 1999, starring Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence. Really funny movie. I'd recommend it. If you like Martin Lawrence and if you like Eddie Murphy, I love both. So it's a pretty good time. A bit more serious than you would expect. So I'd recommend that one. And then I watched a Netflix movie, brand new Netflix movie called Time Cut, where this chick gets transported back to 2003 to try and prevent someone very close to her from dying. Kind of the exact same premise as a movie called Totally Killer, which came out last year. Just nowhere near as good. But a harmless movie. One of the, better Netflix originals out there. Oh, there goes Porter into the kitchen. Now he's about to start itching, so if you do hear that in the background, I am so sorry. No, he's just okay. Right. Time Cut. So not a bad film, just kind of bit forgettable. And then I watched Joker 2. I'm not going to pronounce the title because, frankly, I can't pronounce it to save my life. Oh boy, this movie was awful. One of the worst comic book movies and movies in general that I've ever seen. And probably one of the worst musicals. But the biggest issue I have with this movie is it doesn't commit to being a freaking musical. It has no clue what it's doing at all. It has these musical sequences that have nothing to do with the movie. Like, nothing. Just don't watch it. It's probably the worst comic book movie of the year. And you would think that would still be Madam Web. No. Madam Web, as awful as it is, at least hilariously... Madam Web is at least hilariously terrible for what it is, which is, bad, but still funny. Joker 2, I just, as I was watching it, it just got progressively worse and worse as it went on. There was only so many little things that were good, like Walking Phoenix and Lady Gaga did a good job. The movie looks great. I'll say it's directed well, but and that ending. Oh my god, the ending. That was probably what brought it down big time for me. So I'd highly recommend just keep watching the first Joker, because that movie may not be, the best thing ever, and it was very overhyped. It's still a good film, and it's very, very well done, and it's a very good standalone movie. So yeah, Joker 2, don't watch it. So that's movies I've watched for first viewings, and then a couple of movies here I've rewatched and a few of them I've seen a bunch of times. So I've been rewatching. I rewatched Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, not Vampire Hunter. That's the Abraham Lincoln one. It's really fun. It's silly and very, very stupid, but it knows what it is, unlike a lot of movies these days that have no clue what they want to be. So I'd recommend it if you go into it with low expectations. Then my dad and I watched Shrek 1 and 2. Well, we watched Shrek at the end of October, and then we watched Shrek 2 a couple of days ago. But I figured I'd include both because Shrek 1 and 2, to put it, very, very lightly, are fantastic. I love those movies to death. I grew up with them. So Shrek 1 and 2, I think they're not like perfect or anything. Like, no movie is perfect. At least I don't think it is. But they're just like, they're really fun movies, and they're some of DreamWorks' best films, I'd say. Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, a lot of talent in those movies. Great story, and animation that holds up so well, especially for movies that came out in the early 2000s. Looks better than a lot of stuff today. And then the last movie, actually just last night, I rewatched The Dry 2, Force of Nature, which is an Aussie movie starring Eric Bana. There was a movie called The Dry, obviously the first one that came out in 2021 or 2022, I'm not sure. And I really like that movie a lot. This one, as on second viewing, not quite as fun as I remembered it being, because I went to see this at the theater, and I think seeing this movie in a theater just kind of added something to it. I don't know. I guess it was just the atmosphere of kind of, because it takes place in a very bushy area. Here he goes. There goes Porter. I'll just have to talk over him. So yeah, so that's The Dry 2. I would recommend that too. I'd recommend pretty much all of these movies besides Joker 2. That one you need to stay the hell away from. Just don't even waste your time. Okay, so those are just some of like little movies I've been kind of watching and rewatching. But let's get on with the main event, which is, of course, The Little Vampire. Yeah. So I also wrote notes for this one too, just because I felt the need to, just because I want to get my point across as much as I can. If I'm reading off, again, I'm not professional at this, okay? This is the third episode. Don't expect anything grand or anything, something like that. I mean, I'm only just starting out, so I don't want to come across as being unprofessional, but I don't want to come across as I'm like a know-it-all or something. I think I said that in my very first episode, but I feel the need to reiterate. Okay, so let's start. So I just give my general thoughts on this film. I love this movie. I rewatched it not too long ago, maybe July or June of this year, because I hadn't seen it since I was probably a kid, and I watched it so many times as a kid, and it's one of those movies that I hadn't seen in years, but I remembered a lot of stuff. This movie's just fun and charming. It's got a really cool kid horror atmosphere to it. Jonathan Lipnicki's character, Tony, is really fun. The vampire family that he comes across and all that stuff, and the villain is very campy, but he does well. So to give a general plot of it, essentially, we open with the vampires trying to get rid of their curse because they want to become human. And essentially, Tony moves to Scotland with his family, and he's been having dreams and visions and stuff like that ever since he moved to Scotland, because he sees this amulet that they are trying to find, so then they can be rid of this curse. He meets this vampire kid named Rudolph. Yeah, very threatening, I know. And essentially, he embarks on a on the quest to help them end this curse. And you're thinking, what curse? As I've said, the curse of being a vampire, which I think is a line in the movie. Yeah, I mean, for a movie that came out about 25 years ago, I think it holds up. It's got I just really like the atmosphere of it. I was planning to rewatch it in October, but then I'm just like, I don't really need to watch it in October because I know it came out in October of 2000, or I think even Australia might not have gotten it until 2001. But if we're just going based off, when it came out, I'm saying it came out in 2000. It is a 2000 film. And it's probably my favorite 2000 film. And that was the year I was born. So I don't think I watched it the year it was out, I think I saw it a couple years later. You would think I would kind of not like this movie as much as I did as a kid, just because it'd been so long and all that stuff. But it held up. As I was watching it, all these memories just came flying back to me. And I realized that I had just, so many good times watching this movie with friends and family and stuff like that. I love the soundtrack of the film. I think it's kind of typical, like 2000s fantasy. I guess it's fantasy soundtrack. What else did because I wrote a bunch of stuff. Performances are pretty good for the most part. They're not amazing or anything, but I think they do well with what the script gives them to work with. I think it's directed pretty well. Very solid direction. Special effects, some look good. There are a lot of the ones that actually do look pretty decent, but then you can tell in other shots, like, that's very 2000s. I actually found out that this movie was based on a series of children books, I think, and I think it was a German kids book series, and the author did see this movie. Obviously, I think he ended up seeing it, and he actually supposedly really, really enjoyed it, but he didn't really like how they kind of changed the ending of the story, which, to kind of spoil it, and obviously it's not, it's a very, you can obviously predict, by what the ending's going to be and stuff like that, and with a villain like Rookery, played by Jim Carter, I believe, he's going to be defeated, and then he's going to come back for one last little kind of hurrah to try and, stop the vampires and always, be rid of them. But supposedly the author wasn't too big on the ending because in his story, his books, that the curse can never be broken, so the vampires can never become human. But obviously in the movie, spoiler alert, they change it to where, the curse is finally ended and they become humans. It's like a line that Rudolph says, the main kid vampire that Tony befriends. Him and Tony become best buds. So we always have to hide. We've been hunted for centuries. We want to become humans, not have them for dinner. So you can tell throughout this entire film that the family of vampires don't want to be like this. And even the father, he's played by Richard E. Grant, he's very stern and stuff like that, and doesn't trust Tony at first because he's a human. But as the movie progresses, and even by the end of it, he learns to be like, oh, thank you, my friend. You've helped us and you've saved us. The ending of the movie is very heartfelt. There's a scene earlier in the movie where the sister vampire, Anna, played by Anna Popplewell from the Chronicles of Narnia trilogy, comes to Tony's room while he's sleeping, because they're staying in the cellar, because obviously they can't come out in the sunlight. They have to be in complete darkness. That's how vampires work. And says, look, if you ever need us, and you can't get to us, just whistle and we'll be able to hear you. So he gives him she gives him this very basic whistle. He does it. And And then it comes full circle at the very end of the movie when he sees them. Tony sees them at the mark and goes, "Hey, it's me, Tony!" And they don't really remember him. And then he whistles, and they turn around. They go, "Oh my gosh!" Parents come along. They see Tony's parents, who kind of formed a little friendship. Although everybody seems to think that something was going on with those parents off screen. I don't even want to go into that, and I don't think I even want to know what that was about. Yeah, so whistles, they recognize him, movie ends. Basic premise and basic kind of outline of the movie. I would really highly recommend you do check it out. It was on a streaming service here in Australia called Binge, but it is no longer on there. It's on Amazon Prime, I think. You can rent it and stuff like that, or you can probably find the DVD somewhere online. I know that's going to be my plan. I do have obviously I have the poster behind me just because I felt like I needed to have this behind me to really go yeah, this is the movie I'm talking about. Instead of putting up a picture on the screen that would pop up at one point, I figured I'd have the poster in the background. And it's going to stay there for the remainder of the episode, even after I'm done talking about the little vampire. What else can I really say? I mean, if I'm honest, I'm not the best at reviewing movies, but I try to get my point across as much as I can to basically give you a basic general consensus of my general consensus of what I think of this movie. And obviously, I love it. It's one of my childhood favorites. Holds up very well. Highly recommend it if you can find it somewhere. Yeah, I seriously recommend it. So that's Little Vampire. Now, as in the last episode, I talked about a bunch of different movies. And then I moved on to TV shows, but I haven't really... trying to think. What have I actually just finished rewatching The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I finished the final episode of season 3 today, and now I'm starting Sweet Life on deck. And that by far is my favorite of the two shows. And I know that's very unpopular, but I just like the atmosphere of being on the cruise ship. As someone who went on his first cruise for the very first time last year, I was rewatching the show last year, as I do every November, kind of get myself hyped up for going on the cruise, even though it was going to be nothing like what it is in that show, and obviously better because I'm an adult. So, I'm trying to think. Did I mention I started watching Gilmore Girls? I don't think I did. In the last one. No, I don't think I did. Yeah, I've finally got on that train because so many people are raving about it. I remember doing a play last year at my local theatre, and one of the cast members was talking about it, and I was like, Gilmore Girls? What's that? Ew, that doesn't sound great at all. Lo and behold, I got pretty hooked. I'm not completely in love with it yet. I have nearly finished the first season, and there are 7 seasons of this damn thing. I didn't really know much about the show. The only thing I really knew, all that I saw of it was back in 2016, they released this little Christmas special with 4 or 5 episodes, and I randomly... Oh, excuse me. That was disgusting. So back in 2016, they released this holiday thing of Gilmore Girls, and I just randomly clicked on it. And I had no idea what was going on, because I'd missed and didn't know that there was a TV series prior to it. Sorry if I'm stuttering and all over the place. You should be used to this by now. By the 3rd episode, and by the 4th or 5th, however many I get into this, get used to it. I have started watching Gilmore Girls. Yes, again, a 24-year-old dude, and I'm watching shows like that. So those are TV shows. Nothing special. If you again, as I've mentioned, and I want to mention it again, if you have any recommendations please do. I need other shows to watch other than what I already watch. And then with music, I did listen to this, and I'm still currently listening to this album by the artist called Tove Lo, I think is the name of it. This is an album from 2014. It randomly popped up on my front page or homepage of Spotify, so I was like, okay, I'll download it. And it's a good album. I actually quite like it, and I don't know how many of you have ever heard of it, but I'd say give it a try. And then yeah, I also would like to say that my first episode is currently at 60 views now. Last time it was nearly at 50. Now it's at 60. I hope it gets beyond that. And then on the Spotify for Podcasters app, that one, it's obviously connected to Spotify, but it's just very easier to upload there. Overall, within my two episodes, my podcast has gotten 10 plays, like all time. It says on here. And that came up with like a really big celebration notification, which was quite funny. I did post a thing on my Instagram. I'm actually going to link my Instagram and all that stuff in the link in the description. Just if you want to go check that out. There's nothing really too much up there. I haven't really full on decided what else I'm going to post up there other than just when an episode goes up on YouTube and Spotify. So yeah, those are just some things that I would like to talk about. And in terms of like what's been happening in life, honestly, not too much. Really, just getting this started, and kind of getting a lot of people who have already watched this podcast. I obviously really appreciate it, and I'm liking the little support that I'm getting. It's obviously a big help. It's obviously going to take, I've said this in a lot of the previous two, but it's going to take time, but I mean, all the best things kind of take time, don't they? It's kind of better to go down a road, excuse me. It's better to, kind of go down a difficult road, because eventually, the difficult thing should end up, being the better option instead of just taking the super easy route. I don't know why I'm trying to be all profound right now, but I figured I'd try and come across like that, and give some wisdom, to any aspiring content creators out there, which I guess that's what I'm trying to be now. I guess I'm aspiring to be one. But if anybody else is trying to maybe get into the world of it, I'd say just start and record and record and record and record as much as you can. So, I'm going to end this now. Thanks so much for watching listening to another episode of the Porter Says podcast with your Heath. With your Heath? I'm the host. With your host and only host, Heath. I don't know what the next episode is going to be about. I haven't gotten that far. And that just goes to show how professional I truly am at this. So, thank you very much. I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.